Sometimes the most powerful discoveries in nutrition aren't the flashy superfood trends we see plastered across magazine covers or tucked into Instagram reels with neon text promising miracles. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from looking at the simplest foods, the ones sitting quietly in the grocery store aisles without marketing budgets or celebrity endorsements, waiting for someone to finally notice just how transformative they really are. And when it comes to gut health, your microbial fingerprint, your internal ecosystem, your personal rainforest, the number one food that consistently rises above everything else might just be the most humble of all. Not exotic, not expensive, not trendy, but massively powerful. And today, we're diving deep into why. For those new here, I'm Dr. Michael Greger, and this channel is all about bringing you the best available balance of evidence so you can make more informed lifestyle decisions. My job is to dig through mountains of scientific research, study by study, meta-analysis by meta-analysis, so you don't have to. And when the research points overwhelmingly in one direction, well, that's when I get excited. And nothing gets me more excited than talking about gut health, because in the last decade, the gut microbiome has basically gone from scientific footnote to front-page headline in human health. Your gut houses trillions, yes, trillions of microorganisms, collectively known as your gut microbiota. And these microscopic tenants help regulate everything from digestion, immune function, metabolism, mental health, hormone regulation, inflammation, disease risk, and, depending on the study you read, possibly even your mood and personality. In short, your gut microbiome is kind of a big deal. But what might shock you is this: your gut microbiota doesn't just adapt to the foods you eat, it feeds on them. It thrives or collapses based on the choices you make every single day. And that brings us back to the number one food for gut health that everyone should eat, a food backed by decades of data, a food that consistently shows up as protective in cohort studies, clinical trials, interventional trials, and even in mechanistic lab studies showing how it nourishes specific microbial species. A food that delivers the very compound your gut microbes crave, depend on, and transform into the metabolites that reduce inflammation, heal your colon lining, promote metabolic stability, and support immune resilience. So what is it? Beans. The simple, everyday, utterly underestimated bean. Black beans, kidney beans, lentils, chickpeas, split peas, soybeans. Take your pick. They are the reigning champion of gut nourishment, the single most concentrated source of fermentable fiber, specifically resistant starch and oligosaccharides, that your gut microbes absolutely adore. And here's the funny thing: people are often surprised by this. Beans? Really? I thought yogurt was the gut health superstar. Well, yogurt contains probiotics. Kind of, maybe, depending on the brand, depending on the strain, depending on whether those strains survive the trip through the acid bath of your stomach. But beans, they don't need live cultures. They don't need marketing. They bring something fundamentally important. They bring the food that feeds your good bacteria. Your gut microbiome doesn't run on probiotics, it runs on prebiotics, the fermentable fibers that only plants can provide, and beans offer those fibers in spades. Let's break this down. Your gut microbes take the resistant starches in beans, the carbohydrates your body can't digest, and ferment them. And what do they produce? Short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs, including one of the most studied, butyrate. Butyrate is like rocket fuel for the cells lining your colon. It strengthens the intestinal barrier, reduces inflammation, improves insulin sensitivity, supports immune function, and even helps regulate appetite by activating satiety hormones. This is not speculative. This is some of the most replicated research in gut microbiology. In one landmark study, researchers compared the gut microbiota of rural Africans, whose diets were rich in fiber-rich staples like beans, to African Americans consuming a more typical Western diet.
The difference was striking. The rural African diet was associated with dramatically lower inflammation, lower levels of carcinogenic metabolites, and higher levels of protective short-chain fatty acids. Meanwhile, the Western diet showed the opposite pattern: higher inflammation, lower SCFAs, and increased biomarkers associated with colon cancer. When the researchers had the groups switch diets, giving African Americans the high-fiber bean-rich meals and giving rural Africans the high-fat, low-fiber Western meals, the microbiota responded within just 2 weeks. 2 weeks! The bean-rich diet significantly boosted SCFA production and lowered inflammation, while the Western diet reversed those benefits. That's how fast beans can remodel your gut from the inside out. You see this pattern again and again. When people consume more beans, beneficial microbial species like Faecolibacterium frauenitzi, one of the major butyrate producers, shoot upward. Species associated with improved glucose control, reduced inflammation, and better metabolic health become more abundant. Meanwhile, species associated with inflammation and chronic disease decline. Beans shift the entire ecosystem in a healthier direction. But beans don't just nourish beneficial species, they actively suppress harmful ones. How? Through competitive exclusion. Your good gut bacteria multiply so quickly when fed fermentable fiber that they crowd out the bad actors, and the compounds produced from bean fiber fermentation lower pH levels in the colon, creating an acidic environment that pathogenic species hate but beneficial species love. It's like a bouncer at the cellular level. Only the good guys get in.
And the evidence extends far beyond microbiology. Gut health is intimately connected to virtually every chronic disease you can name. And when you zoom out to population studies, you see an unmistakable trend. People who consume more beans live longer. The blue zones, the longest-lived populations on Earth, share very few universal dietary features, but one of them is beans. The Adventist Health Study, the EPIC Study, the Nurses Health Study, the Japan Public Health Study, different populations, different continents, different dietary patterns, but over and over, bean consumption predicts lower mortality. In fact, a 2004 international study found that for every 20 grams of beans consumed daily, about 2 tablespoons, mortality dropped by 7 to 8%. That's astounding. 2 tablespoons a day. But what about gas, bloating, the concern everyone brings up? Well, the research shows that the more frequently you eat beans, the less gas you produce. Your gut microbes adapt. They become more efficient. They shift toward species that digest those fibers without producing excess gas. In randomized trials, people who reported gas during the first week of bean consumption almost universally saw those symptoms decline within 2 to 3 weeks. And some studies found that beans actually produce less gas than common vegetables like broccoli or cabbage once your gut gets used to them. And the benefits don't stop at digestion. Beans are one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet, packed with protein, packed with minerals, packed with antioxidants, packed with polyphenols. They help lower LDL cholesterol, they improve insulin sensitivity, they promote satiety and can help with weight management, they stabilize blood sugar, they help reduce blood pressure, and they're one of the only foods that consistently lower the risk of both heart disease and colon cancer simultaneously. That's not common. Foods usually excel in one area. Beans check multiple boxes. But why do beans seem uniquely protective compared to other high-fiber foods? After all, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, they all contain fiber. So what makes beans the standout? It's the combination of resistant starch, soluble fiber, oligosaccharides, and polyphenols. Most foods excel in one of these categories. Beans excel in all of them. When you eat beans, you're essentially delivering a buffet to your gut microbes, a multi-course, multi-fiber, multi-nutrient feast, and your microbes repay you handsomely in the form of short-chain fatty acids, reduced inflammation, improved immune signaling, and a healthier metabolic profile. One 2021 review looked at dietary interventions for gut health across dozens of trials. The researchers found that no single food category increased gut microbial diversity as consistently or as powerfully as legumes.
Not yogurt, not kombucha, not fermented vegetables, not supplements, legumes. Beans are microbiome dynamite. And here's something even more fascinating. When scientists conduct microbiome transplants, transferring microbiota from one person to another, they find that the biggest determinant of the resulting health outcome is diet, not genes, not ethnicity, diet. And within diet, the strongest predictor of microbiome resilience and diversity is, once again, fiber intake. But not just any fiber. The most fermentable, microbiome-accessible form of fiber appears to be what we call MACs, microbiome-accessible carbohydrates. And guess what? Food group has among the highest concentrations of MACs on Earth, beans. Now, let's talk practical application, because yes, beans are amazing, but only if you eat them, and not everyone does. In fact, in the United States, 96% of adults don't meet the recommended minimum daily fiber intake. If fiber were a nutrient deficiency like vitamin C, we'd call this a public health crisis. But because it's fiber, a nutrient with no lobbyists, most people walk around unaware that their microbiome is starving. So how do we fix that? By making beans a daily habit. Half a cup a day is enough to deliver profound changes. That's a single serving. Toss them into salads, blend them into soups, add them to whole grain pasta, make hummus, make chili, make lentil stews, swap textured soy protein into tacos. It doesn't have to be complicated. The key is consistency. And here's something really encouraging. Bean benefits are dose-dependent up to a point, but the biggest jump in health outcomes comes when people go from 0 beans to even a small amount. This is not an all-or-nothing food. It's not like eat a pound or it doesn't matter. It's more like eat a tablespoon and your microbiome throws a party. But what kind of beans should you eat? That's the beauty of it. Any kind. Black beans, navy beans, pinto beans, lentils, chickpeas, red beans, soybeans, choose whatever you enjoy. Different beans nourish different microbial species, which means variety is a win. Rotate them, mix them, explore them. The microbiome thrives on diversity, and beans deliver that in one of the simplest ways possible. And for those who worry about lectins, yes, the infamous L word, don't. Lectins are destroyed by proper cooking, and beans sold in cans or bags are already cooked or designed to be cooked thoroughly. The populations that consume the most lectins are among the healthiest populations in the world. It's a non-issue once you look at the actual evidence. But what about canned beans? Are they healthy? Absolutely. In fact, studies show that canned beans deliver the same microbiome benefits as cooked from dry beans. The fiber is intact, the resistant starch is intact, the nutrients are intact. If the sodium content bothers you, just rinse them. Rinsing canned beans can remove up to 40% of the sodium. They're an inexpensive, accessible, and effective way to boost gut health. And speaking of affordability, this might be the most compelling public health argument of all. Beans are among the cheapest sources of nutrition on the planet. Per dollar, beans provide more protein, more fiber, and more micronutrient density than almost anything else you can buy. For families, for students, for anyone on a budget, beans are a lifeline to better health. What's even more incredible is that beans help lower risk across the board, not just through the microbiome. Their low glycemic index stabilizes blood sugar. Their soluble fiber binds to cholesterol. Their polyphenols act as antioxidants. Their slow-digesting carbohydrates promote steady energy. And because they increase satiety, they naturally reduce calorie intake without requiring restriction. It's rare to find a food that offers so much and takes so little.
Now, let's look at some of the emerging research, because the microbiome science of beans is only getting more exciting. In 2022, a randomized controlled trial examined how different carbohydrate sources influenced gut inflammation. The researchers found that participants who consumed lentils daily had significantly higher butyrate production and lower markers of intestinal inflammation than those who consumed refined grains. Another trial found that chickpea consumption increased ifidobacteria, another beneficial bacterial group, by nearly 20% in just 3 weeks. And yet another study found that black beans increased microbial species associated with improved glucose metabolism more effectively than whole wheat. So even among high-fiber foods, beans consistently outperform. And here's an entirely different angle: mental health. Gut microbes influence neurotransmitter production, inflammation, and the gut-brain axis. In observational studies, people with higher legume intake show lower rates of depression. Now, correlation is not causation, but when you look at the mechanisms, reduced inflammation, stabilized blood sugar, increased SCFAs, it starts to make sense. A healthier gut is associated with a healthier mind. Even athletic performance can be influenced by gut health. SCFAs help regulate energy metabolism and mitochondrial function. Some endurance athletes are now experimenting with higher legume intake to support a more diverse microbiome. We're still learning, but the mechanistic links are there. All of this brings us back to a simple truth. The best way to nourish your gut is to feed your microbes what they evolved to consume. And humans evolved with diets rich in legumes. Hunter-gatherer populations consumed wild pulses. Early agricultural societies relied on lentils, peas, and beans as staples. This is not new. What's new is that modern diets have removed beans almost entirely, and our guts are paying the price. So if there were one single food I would recommend to everyone for gut health, it would be beans. Affordable, accessible, evidence-based, microbiome transforming, disease-reducing, longevity-promoting, and delicious when prepared right. If you're still not eating beans regularly, now is the perfect time to start. Your microbiome will thank you, your colon will thank you, your metabolism will thank you, and future you, disease-free, high-energy, long-living you, will definitely thank you. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click that notification bell so you don't miss future evidence-based content. And if you want to dive deeper into more topics like this, check out the videos recommended right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.